Hey everybody, so in this lesson I'm going to show you how to use the GT package to make a table. So in this module, so far we've been looking at data on the mean household income of quintiles from 2017 to 2021 taken from the American Community Survey using the Tidy Census package. We've been looking at that data with the Cable Extra package, which I said is great for making a quick table, but the GT package offers you a lot more options for customization. So it lets you make a much more, beautiful table. GT stands for the grammar of tables, and the idea is taken from the grammar of graphics, which pertains to the ggplot package, which we've worked with in a previous module of this course. The idea behind the grammar of tables, just like the grammar of graphics, is that there's different elements of a table that you may want to customize. And I'll say more about the different elements in a little bit. And I'm also going to put a link in the notes section below so that you can access the GT package website, and they have a really nice diagram where they show you, how they envision the different elements of the table. Okay, so why don't we go ahead and get started? We'll start a new section here. You can call it Display the Data with a GT Table, and then the first thing we're going to do is going to make a pretty good. Let's make a pretty good GT table. Okay, and then we'll start a new code chunk, and we'll call this good table. And well, first we'll load the library in, load the package in, library GT, and then what we can do just to start off is we can just use the GT function to make a table with our states object, which should already be in your environment if you've been following along for this module. All right, so let's go ahead and run that. And this is the basic table that it presents. But of course, there's no title here. There's no notes. There's, it's just a very basic table. Q1, Q2, Q3, Q4, Q5. These column headers are not very informative, and plus there's a lot we can do to make the table look really good. Okay, so that's what we're going to be working on. So let's go ahead and we're going to put our table in an object. So I'm going to save it as an object so that we can use it later on and customize it even further. So one thing about the GT package is just like with ggplot, if you have a ggplot object, then later on you can add more code to further customize the plot. And we're going to do the same thing here, but with tables. Okay, so GT states, so we'll take that table and then we'll use a piper operator and pipe it into tab_header. All right, and this is going to create a header on this table, and which is going to include, it could include a title and a subtitle. We're going to put both. So we'll put title equals mean something descriptive of our data, household income of quintiles 2021, then comma, subtitle equals 7 representative U.S. states. Okay, so we can just go ahead and run that and see what happens. Make sure everything's working and stuff. Oh, and we'll want to display the table. So since now we have it saved as an object, we have to just write the name of the object down here so that it displays. All right, and there we go. There's our title and our subtitle. Okay, so then what else can we do to further customize this? Let's put some column labels. Let's change these column labels Q1, Q2, etc., so that those are more descriptive. And the way we do that is calls underscore label. Okay, and from here we will do name equals blank, and that's because we want this. This is called the stub header. I'll say more about this in a little bit, but we want this to be blank. We don't want name there. So we'll put some parentheses there with nothing between the parentheses to give us a blank stub head label there. And then Q1 equals, we want Q1 to be called, let's say, lowest for the lowest quintile. Q2 we'll call second for the second quintile. Q3 third. How about that for creativity? Q4 fourth. Q5 equals fifth, or we could say highest. Let's say highest since we did lowest before. And then for the bottom quintile. And then top 5 equals top 5%, right? Okay, so we have 6 columns there, and then we've taken care of the name. All right, and let's run that and see how that looks. Okay, that looks pretty good so far. All right, and what else can we do? What else should we do? Well, obviously, you know, these are dollar figures here, right? And so, you know, we want the reader to know what we're talking about when they look at this chart, that this refers to income and that income are in dollars, or incomes are in dollars. So format currency is a function that's available in the GT package. And then we can specify which columns we want the adjustment to apply to. So Q1, Q2, and we have to type them all out. I believe you cannot use a shortcut for this. Q4, Q5, top 5, right? And then the currency that we want is USD. There are different, if you look at the documentation, there's many different currencies you could use, which is convenient if you're working in a different currency. Subunits equals false. So we don't want it to say like cents or something like that. We just want it to just have the main dollar figures there. Okay. All right. So let's go ahead and run that. See how that looks. Okay, and that looks pretty good. Okay. So what else might we want to do? We might want to put some sort of source note in this table, like especially if we're using it for academic purposes, we want people to know where our data come from, right? So let's go ahead and do that. For HTML figures, we can use markdown formatting, and we can have more control over our source note. So that's what we're going to do here. So we're going to do tab source note equals markdown, and then we can use like normal markdown to style the elements of the note. So for example, if we want something to be bolded, we can use, like I'm doing here, 2 asterisks, or italicized would be 1 asterisk, etc. So source U.S. Census Bureau American Community Survey. So even though we're taking these data from I'm missing some quotation marks here. Let me go back for a second, stop talking while I do this. So we need quotation marks around this. Okay. And let's make sure that's right. Okay. And that looks right. Let me go ahead and run this. Okay. See, did I get my source note down here? I did. Okay, and look, because we used the markdown formatting, we were able to get a bolded source. what I was going to say is just that even though we're using the Tidy Census package, we need to cite the data as coming from the U.S. Census Bureau because that's the source ultimately. All right. And so that's our good table. And before I go any further, let me say something about the grammar of tables that I was talking about earlier. So the authors of the GT package envision a table as being comprised of 6 elements. Okay, what are those elements? So we have our table header, right, which we created. That doesn't come automatically, so we put that in there. So that's 1. The table footer is 2. The table body is 3. Then we have our column labels, that's 4. Let's see. Oh, yes. And then from there we have our row labels, which they refer to as the stub. Okay, so this area here is the stub. And then the title of the column with the row labels essentially is, or row names, that is, they refer to that as the stub head. Okay, so once again, table header, table footer, table body, column labels, okay, stub head, and stub. All right. Okay, so now what else can we do? So we've made a really good table here, but what I want to show you now is how you can take that object that we just created, the good table, and make it even better by modifying that object, which is saved in your environment, should be saved in your environment. Okay, good table, here it is right down here. All right, so let's create another code chunk, and we'll say here, we'll say here that we're going to make a very good table. Let's make a very good table, and we can go ahead and label it very good table, and let's put that in an object called very good table. So we're going to save our new table in a new object, and we're going to create our new table by moderating our pre-existing good table. And what I want to do here now, as you can see, this is kind of bunched together. So let's go ahead and modify this a little bit further by changing the column width. So calls_width, and we're going to apply this to, we have to specify the columns that we want to apply it to. Q1 is the name of our first column. In the data, it's called Q1. So we would use that that name in the data frame. What is the name of the column in the data frame? So Q1, so we're going to change the width of Q1 through top 5. All right, Q1 to top 5. And then we're going to do a tilde. This is the syntax that it takes. A tilde, and then we'll specify the number of pixels that we want the table to take up. All right, so px 90. And then let's go ahead and print that. Oh, I forgot the 5. Here we go. Let's try it again. All right, and as you can see, that looks a lot better. It's much wider. Okay, and so similarly, we can make other modifications to it. So now let's make a great table, and what we're going to do next is we're going to change the font. Great table by changing the font. All right, and then we'll put a code chunk in there, and we'll go ahead and label the code chunk very good, a great table. Label great table, and we'll create a new object, create table, and we'll create it based on our very good table. And we're going to do opt underscore table underscore font. Font equals, let's change it to Verdana. Okay. Great table. All right. Let's go ahead and do that. All right. There we go. Now we can see that that really makes the numbers pop a little bit more, right? That makes them a little bit, shades them a little bit darker, makes them stand out a little bit better. So that definitely looks better, at least to me. Okay, so one other thing we might want to change is, like, notice how everything here is sort of right justified, right? It's kind of a subtle thing, but if you look at these numbers, right, they're all kind of sitting over here on the right margin of the column. And we might want to center those. So let's go ahead, let's make a very great table by center aligning our columns. All right, and we'll add a new code chunk, and we'll call this the great table. All right, the great table, same thing as last time, great table, and calls align is the function that we're going to use to do this. And then we're going to enter two arguments here, align equals center, which is how we want to align it now, but we could also do left or right. Columns equal, and the columns that we want to apply it to, so Q1 to top 5. All right, and that should be, sorry, not a semicolon here, but a comma. It's yelling at me. All right, and that should work. So let's go ahead and we'll type out the name of the new table here, the new object, and that should show us a very great table with the center alignment of our figures. And you can see now that that looks better. That the figures now are center aligned. Like this one is not over here, it's over here. 99,043 is centered. All right, same thing with 2,906, it's centered, and that looks better. What else can we do here? Next thing we want to do, last modification we're going to make is we can add some borders and lines, right? We already have lines, right? But we may want to darken some of these, right? To make them stand out a little bit more and to delineate the different elements of the table. So now, why don't we go ahead and let's make an awesome table by adding some borders, some darker borders. Borders dash slash lines. All right, and we'll go ahead and name this code chunk awesome table, and we will make an awesome table. And we will base it on our very great table. And what we're going to call here is our tab options. Tab underscore options. All right, and we're going to have a lot of different arguments here. We're going to do table.border.top.color equals, sorry about that, color equals black. All right, and then we're basically going to do that for a bunch of different aspects, a bunch of different lines that are already on the table. So table dot border dot bottom dot color black. So that's going to be the top and the bottom lines of the table. Okay, we're going to make those black. And then the heading, right, which is this, we're going to make the bottom of, we want to make the bottom of that black too. So let's go ahead and type that in. So this should have a comma here, not there. Heading dot border dot bottom dot color equals black. And then the border of the column labels too, we want that to be darker, right? So we want all of these lines to be dark, and so that's essentially what we're trying to achieve here. So column labels dot border dot bottom, and now we're getting some autocomplete options here, thankfully, equals black. And then table body dot border, here we go, getting some nice autocomplete options here, dot bottom dot color equals black. Table, yeah, that's right. So that's the table body, right, which is this. We want this border down here to be black as well. Okay. All right. There we go. And let's go ahead and print our awesome table. And let's see if that works. Okay, and there we go. And you can see that these lines are much more, pronounced now that we have the black color instead of like the default grayish color, right? This is a matter of taste. Maybe you want to add these kinds of lines to your table, maybe you don't, but it's an option that GT table provides. All right. All right. So from there, last thing I just want to show you is how to save your table, how to export your table. Like say you want to put it into a different document and you're not, or you're working with a co-author who's working in Word or something like that, and they just need the table for their document. There's a GT save option, and I'll just go ahead and show you that real quick. You have to have WebShot. Let me check this before I speak here. WebShot 2 installed, which I give you some instructions on. I'll show you how to do that in the pre-work section for this module. Once you're ready to export your table, it's pretty simple. You just do GT save awesome table, or whichever table object you want to export, awesome table.png, and then you go ahead and you run that. And then that gives you a PNG file over here in your files for whatever folder you're working in. All right, and that's what it looks like when it's exported. So that's GT tables. Like I said earlier, it's a relatively new package at the time that I'm recording this video, and there's lots of cool stuff coming out with this package, so it's good to keep up on the updates. So for example, they just came out recently with interactive HTML tables, but I hope you get a lot of use out of it, and I'll see you in the next lesson.